Welcome to stage number 6, the Queen stage of the 2019 Amgen Tour of California. 127 kilometers, 79.2 miles, the shortest stage of this week's race, but by no stretch of the imagination is it the easiest, finishing at the top of Mount Baldy. Early going, dominated by a number of breakaways. Out on course, 70 degrees. Up at the top of the mountain, though, just 52, and thick clouds settling in here at the finish line, just below the ski station of Mount Baldy. I'm joined by Phil Liggett and Christian Vandeveld. Pretty wild weather today again.
Well, it's a high summit finish today at the top of Mount Baldy, so let's get straight into the action here. We've had a breakaway away for pretty much all of the stage since they rolled away from Ontario itself. Now, as the crow flies, it's only about 30 kilometres from Ontario to the top of Mount Baldy. The way these riders are coming, of course, it is a lot further than that, to a stage of 127 kilometres today.
8-man breakaway up the road. No one of any concern to the GC riders. The best rider up there in the front is Hugo Huel at 11 minutes and 15 seconds. So EF Education First is leading that peloton. They do not have to go that deep. Alex Howes there right on the front. Everything going quite well thus far.
Down a man at the start. Taylor Phinney missing the time cutoff yesterday in the early miles opening. That'll be a pretty tough obstacle to overcome for the EF. Back to the peloton, very compact. Roberto Ferrari there from the UAE team. There's the riders at the front. 5Ks to the second sprint of the day. The first sprint of the day taken out by Fabio Jakobsen. And a lot of fast racing to get this breakaway established. Early on in the race, Herman Pernsteiner was in the breakaway, but he was just over a minute behind the race leader, TJ Van Gardner, to start the stage. So he has prudently gone back to the field, at least if you're one of these riders in the breakaway. Mikkel Zeberg, powerful time trialist. He's in the Huggins-Berman squad. Hugo Huel, the Canadian, another strong time trialist, winner of the Pan Am game title in the time trial back in 2015. Owen Duell from Ineos, his teammate Johnny Moscone, second in the overall standings. We'll see how that plays out tactically. It wouldn't surprise me if Owen Duell was sent back in the finale if Johnny Moscone was in difficulty. Pavel Bernas also been in a lot of the breakaways. Breakaway stage number 2, so Bernas has found the early morning breakaway. 3 minutes, the disadvantage to the field. Third in line there, Lachlan Morton. Alex Howes doing a great turn of work so far. 3 minutes 15. Take a look at the map. Stage started in Ontario. Pretty much made it a beeline for the hills. And the first mountain climb, the sprint point, like I said, Glendora, taken out by Jakobsen. Glendora Mountain Road, Summit. Hard Category 1, followed by another hard Category 1. Then the long, steep, twisty, windy, very arduous ascension up to Mount Baldy. Last 4Ks, absolutely grim. It does flatten out a little bit between 3 and 2Ks, and then very steep pitch up to the finish line at Mount Baldy. Glendora Ridge Road already taken out by the breakaway. Maximum points for the men in the break in the King of the Mountain standings. That competition led by Davide Ballerini, not in the breakaway, but a pretty big lead in the King of the Mountain standings. Leonard Hofstede is the Jumbo-Visma rider. Also could be an interesting card for the Jumbo team to play, depending on how George Bennett, their rider, is doing on the final climb. George Bennett just 34 seconds behind TJ Van Garderen.
Well, the boys in pink, Christian, they are going to miss the tall and very strong Taylor Phinney today. Eliminated yesterday.
Yes, he was eliminated out of the time limit yesterday's stage. Very hard. Taylor had to do a lot of work very early, most like what he had done this morning. But these guys look under control there, Bob.
11 minutes 15, the closest man in the overall standings, Hugo Houle from the Astana squad, so no panic. That will happen later when the attacks come on the last climb of the day to Mount Baldy. Back up in the break. Michael Storer, Sunweb rider. Pretty strong climber. Taking his turn at the front. Hugo Houle is the Canadian Pan Am Games time trial champion in 2015. There's Leonard Hofstede. His teammate George Bennett, 8th in the overall standings. Within striking distance of the lead if everything goes perfectly. Owen Doyle having a very good season. 2nd in a classic in Belgium this spring, Kern, Brussels Kern. So got to have pretty good form coming into the Amgen Tour of California. Mikkel Zeberg from Hagens Berman, world under 23 time trial champion a couple years ago in Norway, and the Danish hour time trial record holder. Dreaming of going for the hour record. Victor Kampenit's the current hour record holder, beating Bradley Wiggins' record earlier this spring. Here's a profile. They're coming close to the second sprint. They'll get the points. There's TJ Van Garderen off the back by himself. A little bit odd that he doesn't have a teammate with him. Oh, here's teammate. I'm imagining he would have just gone back to the team car. Maybe coming back from nature break. That's Lawson Craddock guiding TJ back up towards the front. Getting reports that TJ had flatted from race radio. And it's pretty tough when your team is on the front and you get a flat tire. They can't really slow down, but you have to get caught up. So TJ struggling. Maybe get the bad luck out of the way. A good omen for TJ Van Garderen. Time will tell on today's stage. The Queen stage for all the marbles in the GC at the top of Mount Baldy today. Not an easy chase back for TJ by any stretch of the imagination. This is not a flat road at all. So a long, false flat, hard gradient. Just a few moments ago, TJ getting a wheel change, using rim brakes on this bike, so shouldn't have taken too long to get that changed out compared to one of the bikes with disc brakes. So TJ back up and going steady with Lawson Craddock in the peloton, behind the peloton of all the team cars. Meanwhile, his teammates can't really go too slow. 3 minutes 40-second deficit to our breakaway.
A little bit of luck there if you're going to have a bad moment. Get it out the way now with TJ Van Garderen. His teammates are in control of the peloton. They're not too concerned about the breakaway just now. Latest check I've got is 3 minutes 40, which was showing on screen just now. And no hurry for TJ to get back in the race. Very much the calm before the storm, Bob.
A little bit of an obstacle to overcome for TJ. That might have the effect of kick-starting the motor. I wouldn't think that at this time, not that bad for TJ to have gotten a flat tire. Hopefully it's not a portent of things to come.
No, I hope so as well. But really, if you're going to have a flat tire, then now's the time to have it, like you said. Pretty chill right now in the peloton. No stress whatsoever to bring these guys right back. I like the fact that Leonard Hofstede is up there as well. That maybe could be interesting when George Bennett launches something at the bottom of Mount Baldy. Having a teammate up there, even if you could do a pull for 300 meters, will be great assistance, especially if you're all by yourself. There's a couple times in Mount Baldy where the grading does come down a little bit, but for the most part, it's a pretty steep climb.
Now we're just into Glendora here and about to go through the sprint point. No sprint, of course, nobody interested here, but significantly we're showing 3:40, but the race has just said 4 minutes now, and that's because the peloton has been slowed down by the teammates of TJ Van Garderen to allow him back into the pack. 4 minutes is a nice lead, but as I say, there's nobody in this breakaway remotely close to the overall lead. Hugo Houle, the Canadian rider, is 11 minutes 15 and best placed in that early move.
Nasser Buhani riding pretty well.
Sagan, who's on the front of the breakaway at the moment. There's a little bit of reaction coming now from the field.
Looks like Ben King, second wheel, following a teammate. Looks a lot like Bernie Eisel, but Ben King, second wheel, fancying a bit of an attack right now. 4-minute deficit, 4:40 now, but starting to be joined by some of the other riders. Looks like Alex Hone going off the front. So a premeditated move here by the BMC squad. Just asking myself, why hadn't anybody attacked until this point? Pretty quickly answered by Ben King and a Dimension Data teammate. Alex Hone continuing to surprise. Having a solid Amgen Tour of California. Was in the King of the Mountains jersey. Lost that to Davide Ballerini. Looking to get some points perhaps a little bit further up the road. Joao Almeida from Portugal of the Hagens Berman squad trying to join up to Ben King's little group here. Ben King second wheel, pull through with his teammate. See just how further ahead they can get. Bernie Eisel second wheel. Alex Hone, good riding by Alex Hone. Bernie's going to peel off, give a little bit of a helping hand to Alex Hone to get back on the wheel of Ben King, but now this is the acceleration for real by Ben King. Going to make life hard on the EF Educational First Team, that's for certain. Nathan Haas. Haas the boss. Getting into this counter move also. Not pulling through, but had a pretty tough bridge. Let's see if Joao Almeida can get across there. Might have waited a little bit too long. I just saw him at the bottom of the screen coming through. Nathan Haas trying to pull through. Here's the feed zone. Nathan Haas taking on some refreshment. Doesn't have to go back to the field to do that. Alex Hone grabbing a bottle. Very nicely done by Alex Hone. Let's see if Ben King is going to use this feed zone. Not a very long stage, not very hot. And presumably with 2 bottles, maybe 3, you could make it to the finish line. Shouldn't need to eat too much on such a short mountainous stage. Also, you do not want to run out of energy, so all the riders calculating exactly what they need. 3 men in between our 8 leaders and the field. Ben King duly dropping his bottles off to the fans along the side of the road. Here's the field going through the feed zone. This is the time, if you're the race leader, when you would love to have your teammate grab a Misette. Very dangerous riding there by the Bahrain man on the wrong side of the feeders.
Yeah.
No good.
Absolutely.
Recipe for crashing.
Never for the nervous, the feeding stations, as the riders try to sight their helpers.
Ben King, a tricky little move here in between the breakaway and the field.
And good old Nathan needs to get that bag, unload that thing, put it on his body. Especially if Ben King's doing some damage right here on Glendora Road. It's going to hurt really bad having that bag on your shoulder the whole time.
Definitely.
There you go, Ben.
You got to be pretty hungry to try to match Ben King on a climb and continue to take on nutrition and hydration.
Nathan's one of those guys for tomorrow as well. If we're talking about if it's going to be a really hard race, he's one of those guys who could climb and sprint quite well. And Ben King, as we saw a few stages ago, get in that breakaway, always an opportunist. Thinking back of what he did at the Vuelta a España, having 2 stage wins. There you go. Get rid of that.
These boys are playing off against the fact that the leaders are probably going to cross swords only on the steep part of the climb because it's covered by seconds. That breakaway is not just a breakaway for the early morning. That is trying to hold it to the finish and take out the stage. They reckon, talking to Michael Storer's director, who's in the break, that they need 6 minutes at the foot of the actual climb up Mount Baldy. Well, they've just got 4:45 right now.
Wow.
Impressive bridge.
Yeah. Joao Almeida from the Hagens Berman squad launching out of the field and swinging up to the breakaway rather quickly. Impressive ride. Wow.
If he is that strong, these guys are in big trouble.
That's the truth.
Let's see if he has a lot more staying power here. It looks great on the bottom slopes of Glendora Road, though.
Didn't seem to bother him at all.
Well, it doesn't appear to, but we are climbing on the Glendora Mountain Road here. It's a first category climb, not that far from the top, and then its extension takes us onto the climb of Mount Baldy itself.
It's fast climb, though, Phil. Only average about 5.1%, so it's always big chainring, depending on the wind as well. And these guys really don't care. Again, there's EF education on the front. It's not until anybody who's a threat starts to attack, then you see them start to notch up the tempo. They want to be able to use Alex Howes as long as they possibly can before they even start thinking about Lawson Craddock, and then of course Lachlan Morton after that.
Badilati on the back, the most courageous rider on yesterday's stage, found the breakaway again early this morning, but then was dropped on the descents and decided to go back to the field when the field was pretty close. Maybe not a good idea. Three chasers, joined by Joao Almeida, just about 3.5 minutes. If race radio is to be believed, they are a little bit handier, being on the ground, as it were, right in the midst of the race. Uri Sagan taking his turn. Long, gradual ascension to Glendora Mountain Road. And there's a pretty reasonable descent back to the junction with Glendora Ridge Road, and then the final 5Ks begin just after that, up to the top of Mount Baldy. Hofstede, Sagan, Bjerg, Matteo Fabro from Katusha. Here is the group of four chasing. 3 minutes 50 now in no man's land. It's more or less a question of who's stronger and not who's tactically gone early, but today's so mountainous, very little aerodynamic benefit from any group anywhere. A little bit of inertia in the field on the descents and the very few miles of flat riding, but for most of today's race course, it's either up or down. And to the finish, all up to Mount Baldy, one of the toughest climbs in North America, to finish off today's Queen stage of the Amgen Tour of California. Back in the field.
That's okay, we weren't on camera, that's good. Stay with this.
Off the front of the field, it looks like another rider. Might be Leonard Hofstede going off the front of the breakaway, not content with their tempo. And that is Michael Storer trying to get across. So Leonard Hofstede trying to stay in front, off the front as long as possible for a potential raid by his teammate, George Bennett. So watch for George Bennett to start launching perhaps before the top of Glendora Mountain Road, and then join his teammate, and then try to put serious pressure on the EF Education First team of TJ Van Garderen, our race leader. Leonard Hofstede not waiting around, putting some real pressure now on the other riders in the breakaway. Let's see if Storer is trying to get across. That's his teammate, presumably setting the future attack up. 21 is George Bennett, 8th at the start of today's stage. Wow, John Degenkolb now coming to the front, putting some pressure on. Great to see John Degenkolb racing so well. He does have Richie Port on his team, so they're making it hard for EF First. First two riders on the road, Michael Storers, George Leonard Hofstede. Big aggression now.
So as we look at the men try to sort themselves out, I can tell you that the women's race is already finished about over an hour ago. The women's race, they did a slightly shorter course, but basically they got all the bad roads themselves. It was shaped up at first by Omar Shapira here in the women's race. This is the second stage of the Amgen Women's Tour, empowered by SRAM. Shapiro from the Israel Cycling Academy was right up there, and she was only caught by two people halfway up, about 3 or 4 kilometers out. Katie Hall, the teammate of the world champion and leader of this tour, Anna van der Breggen, they got it together. Now, Katie Hall has twice been the queen of the mountains of this race in the past, and she was happy to escort her race leader and teammate alongside the world champion, Anna van der Breggen. And van der Breggen repaid the debt here. She looked round at her teammate. Katie Hall come over the top. It was hers to take the stage because van der Breggen was gaining all the time she wanted over the rest of the field to try and win this race tomorrow when it ends in Pasadena. Around that final bend, they went round in tandem, and then Katie Hall came just ahead. The first to salute, though, was the race leader, and Katie Hall getting the stage win. 2 times winner of the Queen of the Mountains, could well win that title for 3 next time around. And that victory there by Anna van der Breggen in second place, same time as Katie. Her nearest rival is this lady now, Ashley Moolman, 5 times the champion of South Africa. 1 minute 6 seconds she is behind overall. Ashley on the right. Katie gets the stage victory. She's 29 seconds behind van der Breggen overall. There's the stage result for you there. All smiles. And well she might be. She is so strong, this lady.
Unstoppable this year and in previous last few seasons. Anna van der Breggen dominating the Amgen Tour of California. The winner a couple of years ago, looking solid to get number 2 from the Bulls Doman squad. Absolutely dominant today.
Now we can look at those same roads. They've been warmed up by the women, and down there is the peloton beginning to get over the top of the slopes of Glendora Mountain Road, which takes us onto the slopes of Mount Baldy. Down below is Ontario, where we've ridden away from now.
Let's take a look at that.
Hofstede and Storer on the attack, dropping their breakaway companions. Looks like Matteo Fabro from the Katusha squad trying to get back on terms with Leonard Hofstede, and there you can see just in the distance Matteo Fabro, Hugo Huhl, Pavel Bernas, and Owen Duell still trying to get back on terms. Mikkel Zeberg being dropped with Uri Sagan at the moment. See if they can fight back. Here is the group behind that group, the 4 chasers who just left the field.
Well, these 4 chasers are making progress. They're only just up behind them now. It's a strong group, this. It's got itself organised too. 4 very strong riders. They should cross this gap somewhere on the foothills of Mount Baldy, if they're lucky.
May have left it a little bit too late on today's stage when you got a 4.5 minute deficit to make up with a couple of guys. Not that easy, especially when the peloton's not that far behind you. Big John Degenkolb doing the tempo, presumably for Richie Porte to launch in the finale, but not making it easy for EF for sure.
This is a group here which has now been split away from the main field. They are off the back of the peloton. There's the peloton disappearing over the hill.
Mark Cavendish in that group with Peter Sagan, so no surprise that the sprinters are going to noodle it in, try to make the time limit. That's going to be pretty tight today. Got to go pretty hard just to stay in this race.
And just everyone remember this at home. If you ever think that sprinters cannot climb, you see the guys going off the back and John Degenkolb on the front. If they need to, they still can.
Now the 4 chasers just come in, Bob. 4 chasers are now 3 minutes 20 behind the leaders.
Long way to go.
A long way to go. It's got to begin somewhere.
Good to see Alex Holmes still riding aggressively.
Yeah, he'd love to get in just any points now in the King of the Mountains to make sure at least he consolidates second place. Once this day is over, Ballerini will be the clear winner of this competition.
Yeah, they're looking at my picture.
This guy's getting brought back.
Fabro riding well for Katusha to bring back Hofstede and Storer.
Well, this is his kind of ground right here, isn't it, Bob? And there's really, it's 10,000 feet of climbing, 3,000 meters more or less, and one of the shorter stages as well. So either you're going up or you're going down, and that's about it today. And pretty much from here on out, it's all uphill. They have one or two little reprieves, but for the most part, it's uphill until top of Mount Baldy.
Well, the two leads just been hauled back, so this is a group of 6 here up front now. Some of the breakers got up to them, put the matters right. 4 minutes and 5 seconds is the spread across the field as we speak. This is Bernas in the orange, who's joined the breakaway.
Pretty impressive climbing by the CCC man, Bernas.
He's a big dude. Remember day 2 on the road? This is the guy that rode by himself, banging his head against the wall on the long climbs up towards South Lake Tahoe. Well, he's found his legs again today.
Long, hard, wind-blown stages for 5 days, and Alex Hohn's been on the attack throughout. It's great to see him back on the offensive today.
We have to stand in front of them. Can't let them by. Even if they get a little sniff. Yeah, but I'm just saying, slow down.
6 riders back together.
Slow down a little bit. Nobody's gonna.
Leonard Hofstede making it a bit grippier. Back in the field, there's George Bennett, his teammate, biding his time. Came into the Amgen Tour of California with high expectations, solid fitness. It's been a pretty decent race so far, but he still finds himself 34 seconds behind TJ Van Garderen, 4th wheel. The man in the lead in the yellow jersey. Degenkolb done, pulls off. Well, let's see if some of the 4 men sticking together and working well, trying to catch the leaders.
Nice steady work being done. Bernas on the front here. He's a real solid workhorse, this man. Just tucked in behind him is Matteo Fabi in the K Katusha. Hofstede going through on his back wheel as well. Hugo Houle, the Canadian, on Astana, 3rd wheel. They're working well together just now as they've built themselves steadily up front again. The only man really missing now is Juraj Sagan. He's fallen away from this group. Michael Storrs, the rider in red, he's been told by his team to get up in the breakaway and try and win the stage. He can climb very well. He's in the best place right now.
Trek Segafredo putting down a pretty hard tempo right now, Bob.
Mats Pedersen going bananas at the front, not making life easy in the field. I would imagine Richie Porte must be feeling pretty good to put his teammates on the front and take over from EF, try to shake things up a little bit on the final climb. Impressive riding by Mats Pedersen, though.
And John Degenkolb. You can see all these guys getting dropped off the back here, so the tempo is not easy. They only brought back about 25 seconds from the lead group, maybe more now. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to update when they're still up in the mountains. But Mats, when you see the line in the peloton like that, strung out like that, it's definitely not easy. This is not the hardest climb in the world, but it is, it's one of those things where you still have a draft, so you still want to stay on the wheel. Big chain ring for the most part, 5.1% average up the entire climb. But really, this is just the softening for everybody else, because Trek Segafredo, they cannot let EF just steamroll their way all the way to the bottom of Mount Baldy and just hope for the best. They need to start making some moves, maybe think about trying to soften up. First of all, Alex Howes is out of the equation, so that's one less EF education, but now they need to get Lawson softened up, but they're going to have to go a lot harder to make Lawson tired because he's riding great this week.
They need to change the rhythm, not just increase it a little bit, but put a real serious injection in pace. Otherwise, the EF riders can just stick together and, like you said, steamroll up to the top.
Yep.
I think to me it's shaping up to simply a battle on the slopes of Mount Baldy here. Until then, they're all waiting and watching. This is the group trying to get across to the leaders here. Timed at 3.5 minutes now.
Not sure if I was Matteo Fabro, I would be thrilled that my teammate Nathan Haas is dragging the next breakaway up towards the breakaway, but Nathan Haas must be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, but they're nowhere near them, are they? You know,
they have a ways to go.
It'd be a coup if they even make it in front of the peloton actually before Mount Baldy, because look at that time gap is coming back quickly back to the peloton. Owen Duell right there on the front from Ineos. Strong ride by him. Not known for being a climber, but strong rider on the flats, middle mountains.
Having a good season.
Hugo Huel as well.
Hugo Huel doing a good job. Second wheel. He's got a teammate in the top 10, so could be a three-prong attack. Leonard Hofstede, Hugo Huel, and Owen Duell with men in the top 10 in the GC standings. Here's your leaders. Hugo Huel, Matteo Fabro, Owen Duell, Pavel Bernas, Zeberg, Mikkel fighting his way back into this group after having been dropped. Leonard Hofstede is the man from Jumbo Visma in the yellow jersey. Not content with the tempo a couple of kilometers ago and increasing. Here's the chasers. Juraj Sagan, presumably somewhere in between. Joao Almeida from Portugal, and the Hagens-Berman team with Ben King not far in front of the peloton now, led by Mads Pedersen. Mads Pedersen, powerful Danish rider, second in the Tour of Flanders last year, chasing Nicky Terpstra throughout the finale and not being caught by the field. So you've got to imagine that Mads Pedersen, when he's feeling good, one of the strongest riders in professional cycling. Here's the back of the field. Simon Geschke turning over a massive gear, trying to keep in contact with the main group. You can see Kasper Asgreen in there in the green jersey, about 10th wheel, still riding very well. Be quite remarkable if the Dane in the third place in the overall standings can hang tough on the final climb to Mount Baldy. There's Ben King putting a little bit of pressure on the breakaway. Joao Almeida trying to close down that. 5Ks to the next king of the mountain, about 3 miles to the top of Glendora Mountain Road. The next category 1, KOM sprint. So now this climb gets a little bit more difficult, steeper and steeper towards the top, much like the finishing climb, although Mount Baldy about twice as steep the whole way. Hugo Huel has got a teammate in the top 10, Jonas Gregard. Haven't spoken much about him, but Jonas Gregard's having a great Amgen Tour of California. He's 7th, just 33 seconds behind the race leader, TJ Van Garderen, and that could be a solid tactical card to play later on in the race. If Hugo Huel is required by Gregard to help or even extend his lead or keep him in contact, he's in a great position to do that, being about 3 minutes ahead of the chasing peloton. These riders presumably be getting caught before the top. They're closing in on 4 kilometers, and there's the field is right behind them, led by the very powerful Mads Pedersen. Pretty amazing. The Danes having a pretty great Amgen Tour of California this year. 3 Danish riders in the top 10 in the overall standings. Jesper Hansen, excuse me, in 11th. But Jonas Gregard, Kasper Asgreen in the top 10. There's Asgreen's flashing through in the green jersey. Pernsteiner from the Bahrain Merida squad. Mads Pedersen setting things up for Richie Porte.
Well, the peloton clawing the way back here. We've been talking about Gianni Moscon at the moment. Chris Froome has just sent his best wishes and predicted, Bobby, that maybe Moscon is the man to win this race.
In this group, here's the catch of the riders with Ben King that had attacked at the bottom of Glendora Mountain KOM, but now back in the field because of the pacemaking by the Trek Segafredo squad and Mads Pedersen.
Yes, that was it was a bold move, but he didn't get very far, about 30 seconds ahead of the pack. They brought him back, and now it's Mads Pedersen and Education First got control.
Lawson Craddock, second wheel, riding well. Needs to hang in there as long as he can for TJ Van Garderen. Some flat roads and descending before the final climb, so all hands on deck for the Trek squad, looking great. Uran is there, Sergio Higuita is there, Lachlan Morton is there, and so is Lawson Craddock, second wheel.
Hofstede is the man who's at the front of the leaders, by the way, doing a lot of work. Sagan is at 2:55. Peter Sagan, by the way, has dropped back into what we call the autobus. He's gone off the back. I think he's accompanied by Mark Cavendish. Most of the sprinters are just going to ride to the finish today. And I think that looks to me as though that is Uri Sagan just being swept up. It is. So we've just got the full breakaway up front now and nobody in between.
What's your opinion on this, Bob? You think this is helping or hurting EF Education? This
is what they would want to do in general. It's maybe a little bit faster, but it's not uncomfortable, obviously. Lawson Craddock's still there. Lachlan Morton's still there. Sergio Higuita. Haven't seen Rigo for a while, but sitting pretty so far.
Yeah, Lawson's just like, oh, this is just 5-10 more K of climbing that I don't have to sit on the front. Yeah, very much. You know, I don't think it's really hurting them that much, and unless TJ's struggling today, which I kind of doubt he'd be struggling on a climb like this, especially at 5.1%. This is actually his bean potatoes. He's really good at this kind of thing. It's more the steeper slopes of Mount Baldy, especially when they get up into altitude.
I'm just hearing that David Ballerini has just been dropped from the peloton as well, the leader in the Lexus King of the Mountains. He knows, though, that with that breakaway on, he cannot lose at that championship now. He'll get the jersey tonight and he'll get the winning jersey tomorrow in Pasadena. So the pressure's off him now.
Simon Geschke tacked on the back, yo-yoing. Not a fun place to be generally when you know you need to hang in there, but the legs are not cooperating. A long day in the saddle for Geschke.
Snaking our way up the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains here, which will take us right onto the climb of Mount Baldy. It takes us up, but the finishing line sits around 1,900 meters.
I tell you what, looking at the nice sunshine out there and looking out the door here, it's like they're in a different area code that we are, and they're really not that far away.
As the crow flies, they're not far away, but they're in the sunshine. We're up in the clouds, so it'll be cool. Shouldn't affect them too much because they'll be climbing to the last 5 kilometers of the race.
They'll still be sweating.
Yeah.
Big time.
To put this climb in perspective, was with the Pyrenees, for example, the Col de Tourmalet is just over 2,100 meters. This is 1,950 meters, but you don't feel as high as you would on the Col de Tourmalet.
Well, that's the top of the world. We still have got quite a few mountains behind us, up and over Mount Baldy and into the San Gabriels.
Yeah.
But a very similar pavement, similar gradients. The final climb to Mount Baldy is the Pyrenees in the Tour de France is a good comparison.
There, I would agree with that.
Have not been kind to TJ Van Garderen in the past, but these roads a little bit more favorable.
We take a look at the finish. The mist, by the way, keeps blowing in, losing visibility, and then it's gone high again now, thank heavens. There's the finishing line. They come around a sharp hairpin bend on the right side of the finishing straight there, just to line up for the finish. We've had many famous riders win here, not least Robert Hessink and Julien Alaphilippe, 2 winners at that point in the past.
In the orange jersey, Pavel Berna, 7th on yesterday's stage, so he's having a fantastic Amgen Tour of California.
He's got better and better every day, that man.
1K to go to the top of this Category 1 climb. We'll get a little reprieve after this. Not much, though. More or less climbing some false flats and have one more little reprieve and then right up Mount Baldy.
Mats Pedersen still hossing the front of the field. TJ Van Garderen, apart from a flat tire, had a great day so far. A little worrying not to see Rigoberto Urán in the front here. I don't see him in the field still. I would imagine he's still in there. There's Alex Hone, who had attacked, now trying to get back on the peloton. Badilati, yesterday's most courageous rider, being dropped. Alex Hone yo-yoing off and front and back. Off the front, hanging on the back.
The leaders continue their way up. The breakaway, Houle, Fabro, Doul, Bernas, Bjerg, Hofstede and Storer. They've all come back together again on the climb. Nobody in between now. The peloton closing in quickly. 2 minutes 35. The overall standings in the Lexus King of the Mountains. Ballerini, by the way, dropped from the main field, so he won't be scoring points today. There is 8 at the top, but as I say, there's nobody here affecting the destination. Ballerini, I think, can begin his celebrations in that competition.
Still has to finish the stage race in the time limit, so his work not quite done yet, but he has gotten enough points to theoretically go as the king of the mountain in this year's Amgen Tour of California. Good riding by the Italian on the Astana squad. Astana have an incredible year, getting the stage win in the Giro d'Italia concurrent in Italy. That was taken out by Pello Bilbao from the breakaway, and his teammate, maybe Hugo Hull, the Canadian on the Astana team, trying to repeat history here.
Maybe not. 2 minutes and 10 seconds now. Look at that peloton. They have brought that back really quickly. They started this climb more or less with 4 minutes and 30 seconds. They've more than halved that already, and that's only been with John Degenfeld and Mads Pedersen as they pass through there. Fabro taking the most points out of Category 1, followed by Hofstede. We get a little bit of reprieve now. It's be a lot of false flat here on the top with another little kicker, and then a little downhill right back up Mount Baldy.
A very arduous 27 Ks left. This is the ridge just above the finishing line, so up into the stratosphere and the clouds. You'll want to get your thermal jacket on as soon as you can when you get up here, when you're climbing in the bright sunshine. Mads Pedersen still stomping 500 meters. Wow, they're really closing in on the breakaway. I'd be surprised if that's not less than 2 minutes at the moment. Mads Pedersen at the front has just been doing a tremendous amount of pacemaking, just dropping riders left and right off the back. So Alex Hone in danger. He's been yo-yoing, trying to hang in there. If he can stay in there for another 500 meters, he should be able to catch his breath a little bit before the final dash up Mount Baldy. Now this is just a tough little last couple hundred meters here. You can see peloton will get around that corner, go through the KOM. So far, TJ Van Garderen sitting pretty. Here's the clock at the top, so yeah, be inside of 2 minutes when the chasers get through. Led by Mads Pedersen, minute 45. Whew. Oh my goodness. Just on this slopes of this climb, they've taken close to 3 minutes out of the breakaway. Badilati struggling to stay in contact over the top. These are some of the undulations before the final climb. Not technical. The pavement pretty rough though. Ridden this section of roadway many times and can tell you it's quite technical, fast, but bumpy pavement. Badilati was dropped. Now he's got back just in time to try to follow the wheels before the final climb of the day up to Mount Baldy.
They are rolling though, Bob.
They are absolutely flying.
Look at that time, just keeps on descending down. 1:45 now, still led by Mads Pedersen. That just shows how strong Mads is. Really a classics rider, but he's put these guys on the front when they need to. And
that's the best thing to do. It might be better to pull off the front and see if Lawson Craddock will come through and start keeping the pressure high. This perfect scenario for the EF team. Richie Porte must be feeling pretty strong to put his teammates on the front like this. And let's see on the last few miles of the race whether or not he has the fitness and the desire to go up the road and try to attack TJ Van Garderen. Pretty tall order for Richie Porte. Not impossible though, inside of a minute disadvantage. Richie starting the day in 13th overall, just 37 seconds behind. Keegan Zwerble, USA national team, red, white, and blue jersey. Punching tickets at the back of the front group with his teammate Alex Holm. Hanging tough. They only have a few more miles of terrain like this before the start of the final climb. So if you're feeling strong, you can do a good climb. Not the ideal position aerodynamically to try to recuperate a little bit, but not that bad either. Just try to stay in there and recuperate a little bit before the final climb if you're any of these riders following the aggression of Mads Pedersen from the Trek Segafredo team. Peter Stettman in there still. And just over this little riser, they can see the men in breakaway, so they're really closing quickly. Mads Pedersen doing an incredible turn of work, taking 4 minutes out of these guys in just the last few miles, including over the climb of Category 1. So that's great riding by Mads Pedersen, in fact. And let's see if Richie Porte has the legs to do some attacking in the finale.
So as we're looking at the breakaway here, what do you know about Bill Walton, Bob?
We go way back. I met him in the 80s when I was still racing at a trade show in Anaheim, California. I've been a great fan and admirer of his over the years. I love his commentary on basketball, and I'm absolutely thrilled that he follows the Tour de France religiously in the Amgen Tour of California and the other bike racers, and he's a big fan of ours.
He is. We saw him on his bike on the climb today.
Well, the tempo definitely going out of the breakaway at the Amgen Tour of California. You can see the profile there through the first 2 climbs of the day. Last 13 miles of the bike race, clicking the miles off quickly, but this group is about to get caught by the charging peloton. So if you have put a lot of effort into that, it is not going to come for much. Just 30 seconds being led by Lawson Craddock, and as I imagined, Mads Pedersen pulling off the front. And let's see if the teammates of his on Trek will continue to make the going hard for TJ Van Garderen and his teammates. It doesn't seem like they're doing that, so it wouldn't be surprising if the gap to the breakaway started to creep back up a little bit before the final climb to the finish. No time to give up right now. So Owen Duell got the message from the team car that, hey, EF is back on the front. Trek's not pulling at the moment. Keep your nose to the grindstone and keep working hard. Michael Storer pulling through. Mikkel Bjerg. Mads Pedersen pulling off the front. And now Lawson Craddock doing the tempo. It wouldn't surprise me if the tempo or to the gap to the breakaway didn't start to go up a little bit. It was Mads Pedersen that took all the time out of him, and Lawson Craddock and his teammates content to just keep a much more humane peloton tempo in the peloton. And now a bit of a regrouping here in the main group.
No, agreed. There's no reason to. There's no one dangerous off the front, so I think that time might actually go back out, like you said. Be interested to see if someone else does attack from Trek. Maybe he's trying to really launch something. I mean, know that Pete Seton is probably licking his chops right back there. There's still 4 Trek Segafredo riders right behind EF.
Somebody needs to follow through on that aggression by Mads Pedersen and keep the pace high and the pressure on the EF team, or basically they've just done their job for them.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm with you.
So I'm a little bit surprised that Owen Duell from the he's keeping the pressure on. That's for sure.
Owen Duell warming up the tires in some of the corners, ripping on this false flat right here, right before this last climb.
Owen Duell, a man of the same team as Yanni Moscon, who Chris Froome has contacted us today and said that Moscon is his tip to win the race. He's only 6 seconds off that yellow jersey. And we're only 20 kilometres from the finish, Bob. We are flying again today.
They're absolutely flying. It's not going to be 2 for the price of 1 race. I think it's going to be a free-for-all from the whole front group on the last climb. 12 miles left. Owen Duell hammering this descent.
It's not long. It's going to go right back uphill. I think right about there. He's holding back uphill.
Hofstede trying to get across, so that was pretty, not reckless, but pretty aggressive descending by Owen Duell.
He wants to break that break. He knows they're coming quick behind. He wants to thin that break down and just get the strong men clear. Hofstede is certainly one of the strong men in this breakaway. Has been all week, coming across the gap.
I mean, Owen Duell knows most likely that he's not going for the stage win. He knows he only has about 30 to 40 seconds in hand, so he wants to stay out there as long as possible. So just in case, he can have a little bit of a buffer at the bottom. So if Gianni Moscon does need anything, he can lend some assistance. Same thing goes for Hofstede.
Bernas also joining them here.
Peloton regrouping. Casper Asgreen in the green jersey on the right-hand side of your screen there, doing a fantastic climb so far. Keeping himself right with TJ Van Garderen, and starting the day only 4 seconds behind the race leader. So really powerful riding by Casper Asgreen. Most dangerous man at the moment to TJ Van Garderen's lead. Back of the field, Joao Almeida in that little counter move with Ben King back in the fold. Magnus Kort from Astana in there. Hugo Houle trying to get back to what's now our 3 leaders. Pavel Bernas, Leonard Hofstede, and Owen Duell. Owen Duell making that descent pretty tricky. And Matteo Fabro collecting himself, catching his breath and getting back up to the 4 leaders. Now we have 5 in the front, extending their lead over the peloton to about 40 seconds at the moment, and plenty of firepower left in the field. And the attacks, almost certainly you feel as if it's pretty imminent. The attacks will begin, and the question is, can TJ Van Garderen hold on to the lead? Sergio Higuita waiting in the wings, but he's 28 seconds behind. There is a 10-second time bonus for the stage winner. Looks like Tom Squeent's on the front for the Trek squad, so they're continuing their aggression. Tadej Pogacar, 16 seconds, so he needs a 6-second advantage and 10 seconds or more ahead of TJ Van Garderen and the stage win to go into the lead. I think this is going to come down to a lot of math. Pavel Bernas. Wow. The CCC man still riding so strongly. He's had a very good Amgen Tour of California so far. 7th yesterday. In the breakaway today and making it hard on the riders that are with him. Hugo Houle trying to close that down. Owen Duell getting dropped after going pretty hard on the descent. Leonard Hofstede trying to stay off the front of the field. A minute now, so a little regrouping over the pack and a little bit of a chance for the breakaway to stay out front a little bit longer.
These are the 3 leaders, well, 4 leaders, I beg your pardon, now as they continue to wind their way up the mountain. They split the breakaway again, reduced it in size. Matteo Fabri is the rider from at the back of the race from KF with the big K on his jersey. This is Hofstede. I think he's been a pretty much a good rider, star rider of our race this week, Hofstede, because he's a Dutchman and he really has shown us every day he's been in front of our cameras. So too Bernas, who's on the front here from CCC, Polish rider. Pity our cameras can't swing away there to see the views right back down the valley in the San Gabriel Mountains here. Well, Has Richie Port got a plan or what? Now he's got 3 riders there,
Well,
including himself.
they started with Mads Pedersen, and now the rest of the team is coming through and making the tempo as hard as they can do before we get to the final climb of the day and put some real pressure on EF. Lawson Craddock, they're still hanging tough, so I don't think the pace is as hard as they could possibly go at the moment, but definitely not making it easy. And let's see if Richie Port is as strong as he's asked his teammates to promise them that he is.
Richie has said that it's always a hard race in the Tour of California, but today he's got a real climb to get his teeth into, so let's see if he can. I think he wants to not necessarily go for the win, but to go and see what he's capable of, to see how his form is coming after his steady start to the season. There's the 4 leaders: Hull, Fabro, Bernas up here, Hofstede.
I'm looking towards Hofstede the most just because of George Bennett. He's so far behind, well, relative terms here in this Amgen Tour of California, sitting right there at 34 seconds, that he really needs to go from the bottom of this climb. And in the interview earlier in the day, he said that, yeah, this climb is hard from the bottom, and I could confirm that as well. Very steep at the bottom. Has a couple times where the pitch goes down, but average gradient of over 8%, so it's not an easy climb by any stretch of imagination. So, but everything being so close up there and having so many great climbers all within 40 seconds, it's not going to be easy to really distance himself and put that 35 seconds into these guys. There is time bonuses, of course, but yeah, he's going to have to do something quite extreme and maybe get across the Hofstede, and that could be a big ally for him. Even if it's a 230, 300 meter pull that he does, it'd be better than nothing.
Well, Port's Trek Segafredo team have taken over control of this race for the moment, forcing EF Education First of TJ Van Garderen on the defensive.
Leonard Hofstede, the man in yellow. Good riding by Pavel Bernas. And Matteo Fabro also very solid. Hugo Hull. Astana, watch for him to try to give a little bit of assistance, if he can do, on the final climb to his teammate, Jonas Gregard. And the same with Leonard Hofstede for George Bennett. Starting to get pretty deep into the race. The attacks will come. It's just a question of how much pressure TJ Van Garderen is able to withstand from his rivals. I would imagine Tadej Pogacar, Johnny Moscone, Max Schachmann will throw pretty much everything they have at TJ Van Garderen and the EF Education First. Felix Großschartner also in the top 10. Teammates with Max Schachmann. And Rigoberto Urán, I'm imagining, is in that group somewhere. Haven't seen him for the last few miles. Looking down that long line of riders, you can definitely pick out the teammates of TJ Van Garderen pretty easily. If I'm not mistaken, I might have just seen him right behind TJ Van Garderen at the moment. Some of the false flats leading into the last climb that are definitely not easy. A real challenge to stay in the front group when the pace is so high by the Trek Segafredo team. Yesterday's results: Ivan Garcia, Mikel Bjerg about to get caught. He was in the breakaway, getting unhitched and about to be swept up by the field. There is Bjerg getting close.
Thomas Green still doing all the work for Trek Segafredo on the front. Pete Stetten is still sitting behind. I think Nicholas Egg. Richie Port. Interesting to see who's going to throw it down first here, Bob. This is almost the top of this false summit here. They have a little bit of a descent, and when you see the riders going at top speed, that's when you know that Mount Baldy is coming up really quick. It's only about a 2-minute descent at the very most, and then bam, right up for 8K.
Some of the riders struggling to stay in the group are still hanging in there, so imagine the pace is not as quick as it could be when the final selection starts. But good riding by Toms on the front. And also Nicholas Egg trying to put TJ in a little bit of hot water.
I don't know. I think it's a good idea for Toms to stay out there as long as he possibly can. If he's come this far, let him stay on the front on this ridge and into the descent, and then you let your pure climbers start really ratcheting up the pace on Mount Baldy itself. Former winners there, Andrew Chalansky being the last one. That was like a match sprint at the top too. It's really not that steep those last couple sections here, just rough road, switchback after switchback. Ooh, these boys are suffering a tad though at the back.
Evan Huffman, pretty good climber, having a tough time, so the pace can't be that easy at the front.
King of the Mountains passed in this race, twice second in the King of the Mountains, struggling today.
Leaders here, Hugo Houle, but Days number just over their left-hand shoulder. If they look just behind them, they will see the peloton charging, led by Trek Segafredo. Tom Squeens doing the damage. Matteo Fabro, the climber from the Katusha team, having a good day out. Yeah, he just you can just see the field right behind him, looking over his shoulder. Not encouraging, especially if you're on the limit. Hofstede, he's got a big job trying to keep George Bennett at or near the front if he can do. Pretty tall order. Still a couple of teammates for George Bennett from Jumbo-Visma in that group. Hugo Houle, Matteo Fabro, Pavel Bernas, a man in orange from the CCC squad. 7th yesterday. So Bernas continuing to ride well. There's Richie Port, 4th wheel. Pete Stetna just in front of him. Nicholas Egg following Tom Squeens. And then Lawson Craddock, Lachlan Morton, Rigoberto Urán, TJ Van Gardner, and of course in the yellow jersey, and Sergio Higuita on his wheel. Sergio Higuita, enviable spot there, sitting on his teammate, getting ready to pounce perhaps if he can, or if TJ should falter. It's going to be a big question mark on the slopes up to the top here on Mount Baldy. Can TJ defend? Can he match the accelerations that are most certainly to come from, if not Johnny Moscone, but most definitely Tadej Pogacar if he's having the solid day that he should have. Been very powerful so far. He's having a great season. Just 20 years old and being picked as a future superstar of professional cycling. Lawson Craddock, job done. Back to the chasers, struggle to the finish. One more day for Lawson Craddock, and it's done tremendous work for TJ Van Gardner thus far. If TJ can defend, one more day of work for Lawson Craddock and his teammates. But for today, job done. Sitting at the front, doing the tempo for the race leader. Here we go. Bora on the attack. They've got 2 men in the top 10 on the Bora team, teammates of Peter Sagan, but now it's the turn of Max Schachmann and Felix Großartner to put the pressure on. Catching Owen Duell just like as pretty as you please right there.
Well, there's a counter move coming here from the field that might change it. Is this Oscar Gatto on the move?
That is Max Schachmann. Who
okay.
finds himself in the top 10 in the overall standing. So this is a serious maneuver.
Very big move going off the front. That's interesting to see because they have Felix Großartner back in the peloton and maybe even stronger, and I'm assuming much stronger today. So Felix giving him the nod to go for it. That means that Felix has great legs here today.
This is something you have to respond to if you want to win the Amgen Tour of California, if you have the teammates and the legs to do so. Max Schachmann going on.
Yeah, 22 seconds behind TJ.
This is a serious move by the Bora team.
This is the first move by Bora. They've got 2 cards they can play here, and there's going to have to be a reaction from EF Education first.
Lawson Craddock went back to get Bottles at a rough time. All the way back there. Now he's going to try to haul himself back with Bottles on his back. Not an easy time to come back through the peloton.
Interestingly, they've used Schachmann, the higher placed of the 2 riders on the same team of Bora Hansgrohe. Back with the leaders here. The spread, though, right across the board now is a mere 20 seconds. On the way down with Schachmann. That gives you some idea how close those leaders were, because he is crossing the gap here. This will liven them up.
Please practice this technique before you use it in a bike race or on a descent. Schachmann sitting on the top tube and pedaling, closing down to the breakaway. Didn't take him very long at all, and starting the stage 22 seconds behind TJ Van Garderen. That's going to require a reaction from the EF Education First squad of TJ Van Garderen for sure.
It has got to come, but still down there, it is not the team of EF Education who is setting the pace, and yet one man has managed to break the grip and move away. And he's caught up now with the leaders, more or less, but still only 20 seconds spread across the field.
Schachmann is scooting right here, and no offense to any of these four in the front, but they've been out there all day. They're going to be pretty much worthless to Schachmann, considering he just closed a 20-second gap in about 2 kilometers at the very most. So Schachmann needs to keep the pressure on as long as he possibly can. We have a little descent coming up in about 2 kilometers, and it's right out to Mount Baldy.
Hofstede setting the pace here.
Our leaders joined by Max Schachmann of the Bora team. Got 2 riders from that team in the top 10. Netnel Berhani tacked on the back, still climbing well enough to be in the group. And there's the teammates of George Bennett a little bit further down the line, including, I would imagine, Nilsson Paulus. Some strong riders left on the Jumbo Visma squad. Good riding by Keegan Swerbold. Stay in this very competent front group. Max Schachmann on the attack. On the top tube, descending. This is as quick as you can descend aerodynamically. Not the safest, but definitely a little bit faster than otherwise.
This is not what I expected, but I'm not going to lie. I did not expect to see the first attack really be coming from Bora with Schachmann, but a lot of these guys are off the radar and they're not looking towards them. Same thing goes with Pogacar. Well,
Schachmann, if he gets a 10-second time bonus with the stage win, he's only 12 seconds behind TJ Van Garderen, so that's a virtual lead.
But correct me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking that he is not the guy they're working for today. I think Schachmann's doing this in service of Felix Großstadtner. I think if he is the one who's going the fastest, he wouldn't have attacked first.
Absolutely.
So I think he's secondary actually to Felix, which is scary if he's going across the field like that quickly. They have a little bit more of a little ramp to go up here, and they're going to have that about a kilometer descent, maybe not even, and then they'll go right in the lower slopes of Mount Baldy. Schachmann flying right now, 25 seconds. Lawson has made it back up to the front after going back to get bottles at maybe the worst time possible, coming to the end. So I saw him go, and I thought he was done, but that's what I thought. Went back and got bottles. Impressive ride by Lawson. Shows how strong he's going.
Absolutely. Rigoberto Urán right in front of TJ. TJ in the yellow jersey there, and Sergio Higuita, young rider in his first race with EF Education First. Talk about a baptism of fire.
Yeah, I think it's going to be impressive what he does. Yesterday with that little sprint he did, whew, if he could do that again today for a couple more kilometers,
yeah,
watch out.
Lawson, Craddock, impressive journey back to the team car and fight to the front, drop off some water bottles inside of 10 kilometers in the final climb to Mount Baldy to decide the Amgen Tour of California. Lawson, Craddock doing a great ride there, back to the tempo in the front, but you imagine he is on good form this year, but pretty tall order to do much more tempo making. Here's our leader, Schachmann, keeping the breakaway up the road. Leonard Hofstede, solid climber Hofstede is, and sitting on the wheel of Max Schachmann, definitely putting some pressure on not just the EF First, but the other teams that are interested in the GC, including UAE for Tadej Pogacar and Ineos for Johnny Moscone. Presumably Johnny Moscone still in this group. Here is where they've been and where they have yet to go. So Mount Baldy awaits inside of 10 kilometers from the finish. Pretty tenuous lead of just 30 seconds and lots of climbing still to come. Beyond category climb up to the top of Mount Baldy. Bora rider on the front, expecting the attacks from his teammates to come. Here comes the field descending his last few drops before the final climb. There is Lawson Craddock still giving everything that he has, followed by Tom Squeens. Pete Stetina also in there for the Trek team, just a few riders back. The lead group getting smaller and smaller with every mile. TJ Van Garderen has lost his lead in the virtual standings to Max Schachmann for the moment. So Max Schachmann taking over the lead in the virtual standings. I don't imagine that will be the case at the finish line, but definitely putting pressure on the EF squad. Max Schachmann with his teammates Felix Großartner waiting in the wings, and EF Education First obliged to chase down this very aggressive move by Max Schachmann and the Bora squad. A lot of effort to just get a tenuous lead for Schachmann, so he'll probably pay for that in the closing miles. Nothing to panic about for the EF Education First team, but cannot be a comfortable scenario. You can see the road snaking down towards the valley below, towards the left-hand side of the screen, and the field will be able to see these men in the front every time the road straightens out. Mount Baldy Road here, so the beginning of the climb just about to punch these guys right in the chin. Schachmann on the aggression.
As they pump it up here, Schachmann 22 seconds down overnight in 5th place now, the leader of this race on the road. His pace is so high, Bob, he's hurting the whole break.
Leonard Hofstede having a tough time sitting on, and Matteo Fabro about to get dropped. Schachmann absolutely flying so far.
Schachmann is absolutely flying. There you go, 8.5 kilometers, elevation gain of 2,200 feet, an average grade at 8.2%. And that's with a couple places where it goes down a little bit. But look at that max gradient, almost 16%. And like we were thinking about it with George Bennett's interview this morning, the bottom of this is already quite hard. So if you want to be attacking out of that peloton, or at least making the tempo, you have to make it from the bottom.
Schachmann on a mission here, rider who has struck and won 5 times this year. His latest victory was in the Tour of the Basque Country, where he won 3 stages. He didn't win the race, but he held the lead for 4 days. Now he's looking for yellow to take to Pasadena tomorrow. This surely must be causing concern amongst EF Education First.
Here comes Pete Stetina on the right-hand side of your screen from Czech Segafredo, having a little chat there with Toms.
Great riding by Lawson Craddock. His job is done. Lachlan Morton now taking over the pacemaking.
He's alone.
Schachmann going solo, dropping everybody from that breakaway.
40 seconds already, Phil. That was not long ago that he attacked out of the peloton, doing everything by himself, really getting no assistance whatsoever by the lead breakaway. And I don't know, no shade on those guys at all. They've been off the front the entire day, but Schachmann really setting this race on fire right now.
The German, 25 years of age, has saved something very, very special for today. He has flown out of that pack. He is pumping.
I'm looking more towards his teammate, though, Felix Großartner. He is the one that I'm really intrigued to see what he can do. I think that he's almost setting this up for his teammate right now. As you see, Pogacar going up to the front on the left-hand side of the road in the white best young rider jersey in the UAE colors. Lachlan Morton now on the front from EF.
I tell you what, EF are under pressure here. They've only got the one rider here setting the pace at the front now, and Casper Asgreen in that green jersey also still intruding in this. There is the man I think everybody fears now. If he were ever to win this race tomorrow, he would be the youngest ever victor at 20 years of age, Tadej Pogacar. He sat down there, tucked in, watching and waiting, and now it's all over for Lawson Craddock. He's done the best he could for his team leader in yellow there. Now he's got to hang on in there. Peter Stetina setting the pace to the right. That's Lachlan Morton on the left of our picture for TJ Van Garderen.
Tadej Pogacar in the best young riders jersey. following his teammate. That's Langen, having a good climb so far. So Vergaard stuck at Langen, riding well. This is the man of the moment, however, Max Schachmann, up the road and putting serious pressure on. He is the virtual leader in the Amgen Tour of California at the moment.
He's pulled out 40 seconds over that group now, and he's on his own. Remember, he's dispatched the breakaway. They'll all be picked up now by the peloton, but this man is going for gold. He's only 4 miles, only 4 miles from the top of the mountain.
Only 2,000 feet vertical, Phil. Not a big deal. He's got a ways to go.
We shouldn't laugh. It's hard.
Lachlan Morton going deep right now. Lawson Craddock obviously out the back right now. Now it's his turn. He hasn't had to do too much work this week at all because Lawson's taken on so much on his shoulders. Looks like Pete's struggling a little bit, pulling off to the side. Yeah, well, Pete's setting out of it. Lawson Craddock, and now Lachlan Morton doing a great job if Pete Senna is moving out of the way.
See if Richie Porte has the legs to finish off the aggression from the Trek team. Still biding his time, waiting in the wings, and Lachlan Morton dictating the tempo at the moment.
Well, look who he's got behind him. This youngster, Tadej Pogacar, sitting there, got a good rhythm going. 20 years of age with the experience of a veteran rider here. Never been here before. And there's riders going off the back, being called from the race time after time. He swung out a little bit wide. Go back to the leader. Max Schachmann here, the German for Bora Hansgrohe. The same team, by the way, as Peter Sagan, who entertained us on day one when he won into Sacramento. But this is their man for the overall, if he can stay away.
10-second time bonus up for grabs at the finish line. I'm surprised that some of the other attacks that we expected to come have not materialized just yet.
EF Education at the moment are being left to do all the work. That's what happens when you have the race leader on your team. But now what is going through the mind of TJ Van Garderen? He's got to be concerned by the pace that Schachmann is giving us here. He's now virtual leader by 23 seconds on the road. See if we can show you a relationship here from our helicopter flying off the left shoulder of Max Schachmann.
Going over this bridge, and after this bridge, we always use this as one of these places that I knew when I went across this bridge, this is where it got steep yet again. Very hard stretches of road. You look back, that's a good relationship shot to see exactly how far it is. And sometimes it doesn't look as far on the climb, but I'd put that at least 40 seconds there, Bob.
Yeah, absolutely. Morton doing the tempo. Rigoberto on his wheel. Still 4 men left for the EF Education First Squad, but they have got some serious work to do to close the advantage that Schachmann has down. Tadej Pogacar pulling off the front there moments ago, not ready to attack just yet. Very clever move, and a little bit maybe, like you said, Christian, under the radar from the EF team. They're probably worried about Moscone and Pogacar, but that man is taking the moment to attack at a perfect time. It's going to take some doing to catch him before the finish.
25 riders, that's all that's left in this chase group here. All of a sudden the other teams have turned off completely and handed it back up to EF Education First. 4 riders have won here on 4 previous visits: Talansky, Alaphilippe, Hessing and Levi Leipheimer. Used to be the king of the Amgen Tour of California, Levi. He's been on stage finishes already this week. He lives over in Santa Rosa in California. But this man has really thrown down the gauntlet. The jaw is setting on the face of TJ Van Garderen. He's relying still on his team to keep this pace up, but the gap is stretching. 45 seconds it is right now.
Tadej Pogacar and also Richie Porte sitting right back there, also looking good right behind TJ Van Garderen, Higuita, Rigoberto Urán. There's still a ton of firepower. I'm not saying that this guy's walking away with the stage run and the overall by any stretch of the imagination. These guys could definitely still bring him back in the later slopes of this Mount Baldy climb.
Well, there's Richie Porte down there too, but I'm just looking at the face here of Tadej Pogacar. I'm getting the body feeling that he's not going quite so well as we expected here. He's become more put into his place at the moment. He's 4th in the line, 5th in the line rather, as we see it just now. Everything being left. This is what happens. You have the leader on your team. It's your team has got to help you. The rest are waiting for somebody to crack on Education First so they can move. George Bennett is still in this group, but he's tailed down the back of some 25 riders left in this group. Not too late to make a sprint if you can do it on these slopes. This is the face of a man on a mission.
Good advantage still for Max Schachmann, and closing in on the final 3 miles of the race, just over 5Ks to go. Johnny Moscon being
number
dropped.
1 is being dropped here. Chris Froome is the rider who tipped in for a big performance, thinking of a place on the Tour de France team for Ineos, but he's cracked here, and this is a big surprise.
Gianni Moscon, 3rd place in the overall, only 6 seconds behind right now, being dropped. That's another one that EF doesn't have to worry about.
Wow.
I'll be happy to see him going out the back. But this man, not expecting to be worried about this guy, but a lot of worry going through that field right now.
Schachmann has the legs. He's coming off a most brilliant Spring Classic season with 5th in the Amstel Gold Race, 5th in Flèche Wallonne, 3rd in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. This man is up for a fight, and I think he may have pulled a great surprise here. 35. They're coming back slowly.
Doesn't seem to be showing too much fatigue. He still has a great cadence there, out of the saddle, accelerating on those steep sections, and putting some real pressure on the
Take a look at this
team of EF.
There's the relationship. He's around the corner. They just come around this one. They won't see him.
I started my stopwatch at that switchback up there on the right-hand side, so we'll get a good idea exactly what that is.
5 kilometers from the top of the mountain. The finishing line awaits. 3 miles to the top.
Casper Asgreen on the shoulder of Lachlan Morton, riding great so far. I'm surprised to see the man in the points jersey of green, Casper Asgreen, having a good climb. Starting to really show some struggle and strain though on his face at the moment.
35 seconds, Bobby, to the peloton right now, so he is still the leader on the road as it stands right now. Not to mention with that 10-second time bonus as well. That's a very steep pit right there, up and over double figures there from gradient.
The face here on Asgreen. He's hurting, but he's been a sensation in the race this year. Lachlan Morton, happy to see somebody come and give him a hand, I think.
In all honesty, Max Schachmann not looking any worse for wear than these riders, for sure.
Agreed.
Has a 30-second advantage.
They've got to climb 35 seconds quicker to nail this guy back right now, and they're running out of miles. Every corner now really hurts. It gets very steep.
How you living? Max Schachmann living pretty good.
I'll tell you what, we told everybody how cold it is up here. These guys have got nothing on. This is the chase group. What's left of the peloton, it's dropping one by one.
Lachlan Morton just peeled off there in the pink jerseys from EF Education First. Asgreen really putting it down right now, bringing that lone rider off the front back little by little. TJ Van Garderen still in the fold there, looking okay in 3rd position. Rigoberto Uran sitting right behind Asgreen.
This is the 5th time he finished on Mount Baldy. I don't remember a peloton this size coming towards the end. One man only ahead of them, 2.6 miles to race. They're slowly bringing it back.
TJ's pulling out.
TJ getting dropped right now. TJ Van Garderen in big trouble at the moment.
And it's been created by Casper Asgreen here. TJ, the race leader, is cracking. The gap is opening. He's looking for help. He's looking who's coming past next. He's gone. There is the virtual overall situation, but it's bigger now. TJ going. Schachmann is the leader on the road of this race. A sensational climb. This is Moscon.
Moscon, some of the crash damage from the race, trying to struggle to stay in contention, but TJ Van Garderen being dropped. Max Schachmann streaking towards the win and the overall lead at the moment.
So 2 of the guys from the top 3 are out off the back as it stands right now. This man, Maximilian Schachmann, off the front by 32 seconds, your leader on the road.
We've seen some rides at Mount Baldy, but this one is going to go down as probably the best. What an attack that came from this German rider. There's the field just behind. They are still closing in, and that is probably why TJ had no answer to the rise in pace by Casper Asgreen. In the green jersey, by the way, so he's pretty easy to pick out.
George Bennett on the attack. Sergio Higuita trying to cover this maneuver. Tadej Pogacar right there, and Richie Porte hanging tough with George Bennett now on the offensive. TJ Van Garderen in serious trouble with 4 kilometers to go.
Well, Sagita, the little boy here, who is the teammate of TJ Van Garderen, could be the man to take over the race lead here if it works out. George Bennett, the man that TJ Van Garderen feared, is now unleashing his speed, and the gap is 20 seconds.
Well, if Higuita's going to take him down, he needs to distance Pogacar, because Higuita's behind Pogacar in the overall classification, so he's got his work cut out for him. The man of the day right there is third on the road right there in the best young rider jersey, Pogacar. And there's TJ Van Garderen struggling right now.
Well, the pressure has been on him all week as he continues to grit his teeth and hope that these frisky boys slow down a little bit.
Rigoberto
There's
Urán. Grossschartner there also in trouble, but Urán being sent back to try to help TJ limit the damage, but a little bit too little too late. There comes Richie Porte on the attack, trying to get close and up to the wheel of Max Schachmann, but Tadej Pogacar still riding very well. Higuita on his wheel, and George Bennett hanging tough. Richie Porte, these are your 4 men, the strongest at the finale of today's state in the Amgen Tour of California,
but
for sure.
Take note, it's not just Van Garderen who's gone now, it's also the man who was 2nd overall, Kasper Asgreen. He's gone, so too Gianni Moscon. So Pogacar is the next man, and here he is coming across now as he tries to get up and readdress things here. He could be the winner of this race if he can find something special. Pogacar starting the day with an advantage of 6 seconds over Max Schachmann, who's leading the race at the moment. This is Big Bid. This is Asgreen further down. Was 2nd this morning. You must wonder what on earth has happened here. This is an attack by Higuita.
Higuita on the attack. That is Pogacar matching that acceleration by Sergio Higuita. George Bennett trying to get back on terms. Virtual leader is the man 2nd wheel, Tadej Pogacar.
Everybody believes they can win the Tour of Amgen Tour of California today. They are giving it the ultimate efforts here now. Pogacar joined by Higuita, and George Bennett has gone onto the wheel as well.
12-second disadvantage in the overall standings from the man in pink there, Sergio Higuita, to the man in the best young riders jersey, Tadej Pogacar, and 10 seconds, 6 seconds, and 4 seconds time bonus at the line. Richie Porte fighting back to get back on terms. George Bennett takes over the pace making at the front of the race.
Get into the higher altitudes right now in Mount Baldy. I'm giving the upper hand to Higuita right now, but that does not matter in the overall standings because Pogacar is the one who really has that time in hand right now. So he just needs to watch these other guys, make sure they do not go off the road.
These 3 riders throwing everything they have got at one another here. The men who've dominated this race in the overall classification. They've seen TJ Van Garderen be dropped. They've seen Gianni Moscon be dropped. They've seen Kasper Asgreen being dropped. So we go back to the 4th, the 5th and the 6th riders overall in this race, now distinguishing themselves with George Bennett in yellow also turning the screw.
A lot of these accelerations and hesitations allowing a couple of riders to get back on terms. That Richie Porte goes on the offensive now. Let's see if George Bennett and the others can close down.
Richie Porte 37 seconds behind the general classification, so they still need to watch him. Now look at Higuita going and counterattacking over Richie Porte.
This man's danced on the pedals. He looks at them, he's on the speedboat. He's just pulled away from them here. This is a super effort now. He's seen his team captain, TJ Van Garderen, crack. Now he knows it's up to him to win the race for EF Education First.
Tadej Pogacar trying to fight back, but Sergio Higuita, he needs about 12 seconds to further in front of Pogacar to take over the lead, and he's about that right now because he's going to get a time bonus of 10 seconds if he wins the stage.
Tadej just needs to really just time trial his way. Don't even think about what George Bennett or Richie Porte are doing. Think about the overall classification. Just go to the front, put your head down, and hone in on that man in pink.
Well, he's hinted at doing this all week. He's even nipped out sections on bonus time in the sprints on the flat roads. And he's obviously and clearly a great climber here. This is Bennett in the yellow. Porte has been put back into 3rd place in this group. Pogacar is the rider setting the pace. This man, and he's only weighing about 55 kilos, or I think, what's that, 120 pounds, something like that? He's flying up the mountain.
pure climber from Colombia, plenty of those. But Sergio Higuita, the latest in a long line of fantastic Colombian climbers, using his talents to maximum benefit for the EF squad. TJ faltered, but Higuita was ready, putting the hammer down and making it very tough on Tadej Pogacar to close the gap down. Pogacar is ahead of him in the overall standings, but Higuita going better right now, and TJ really in trouble a long ways down the mountain from his teammate Sergio Higuita.
And right here, especially Bob, here it's right around 6,000 feet. This is a little plateau. It actually goes downhill for a section and then bounces right back up. Look, Port's dropped his chain. Looked like it wasn't connected. What's going on here with Richie?
Oh no!
Horrible timing.
He stripped his block here.
Looked like the chain had actually gone up and into his spokes, Bob, above his biggest cog. Now Richie's got to work hard. The chain is back on his gears, going back again, but lost about 100 meters distance back to George Bennett.
At the worst possible moment on this climb too, at the only point that it flattens out a little bit. He's getting his gears going now, but oh wow, bad luck for Richie Porte.
Well, that is a real shame, and he was giving himself a real test there to see just how he was becoming. But this man here, he's on a mission now, that's for sure.
Gonna have to have
8 kilometers to go.
Our stopwatches handy. A lot to play for. There's a 6-second time bonus for second place also. If Pogacar gets that, then Higuita would need 8 seconds advantage over him to take the lead back in the overall standings. It's going to be complicated for sure at the end of today's stage.
The happiest person right there is definitely Tadej, seeing Richie Porte go out the back, but it looks like Richie's making his way back up, and that can really come down to those time bonuses, because if Richie takes that second or third place from Tadej, that could really hurt him in the GC. Yeah, we're going to need the stopwatch and the calculator real quick, like after the finish line, to see exactly where everyone does stand. But I can tell you what, it's going to be very close going into Pasadena tomorrow.
Porte's problem sorted out here. Higuita is right in the distance there.
Well, they're bringing him back.
Absolutely. George Bennett hammered down. He's got Higuita in his sights, and Higuita looks to be struggling a little bit, going maybe backwards, not forwards, away from his rivals at the moment.
Well, I find this just now, before we get into that last 500 meters, this is the hardest for me, the hardest part of the mountain.
They're real steep. Like you're right, the last 500 meters actually are back and forth, horrible pavement. Really at the bottom of the ski slope right here in Mount Baldy. Really just switch back, just sprinting, braking all to the top. But I think Higuita's starting to come back here. I actually thought that he was going to go faster and faster as we got in higher and higher altitude, him being Colombian. But looks like these guys are nailing him back.
There's pride at stake here. This young man's only 21 years of age. He's not 22 till August. He's never ridden a Grand Tour. He's never ridden a classic race. And he's never won a bike ride. And he's riding like this. They found someone special on EF Education First for sure.
Form's got to be good. If you can sprint to third against the sprinters.
Tadej is now dropped. Ooh. George Bennett off his wheel right now. So now it's every man for themselves to the line.
Well, Tadej Pogacar is coming up behind as well. 2 newcomers to the Amgen Tour of California going head-to-head on Mount Baldy. One of them should pull on yellow tonight if it holds on.
A lot of encouragement from some of the fans of Colombian cycling for sure for Higuita. But Tadej Pogacar, getting close to getting back on his wheel at the moment.
Well, this is a battle of Mount Baldy like we've never seen before. Everybody started this climb thinking they could win this race, separated by seconds. 3 riders are still in that position. 4, because we've still got George Bennett as well as Richie Porte.
Pogacar,
he's bringing him
almost back to the wheel of Higuita. That's bad news for the EF Education team. Pogacar 12 seconds ahead in the overall standings at the start of the day of the man he's just about to catch it. Even with the 10-second time bonus, he would go into the lead if they cross the line together.
Pogacar looks good.
Yes.
He looks like he's complete control right now.
The Lexus, 1 kilometer to go, and the man in white, best placed of the leaders on the road here, Tadej Pogacar, started the day in 4th, 16 seconds behind Van Garderen, and now he leads the Tour. There's a 10-second win bonus as well.
Back on the wheel, Pogacar has done it. He just needs to follow Higuita to the line, and he'll take over the lead. If he can do that, let's see if Sergio doesn't have one more attack in his legs.
Usually I'd always give the upper hand to Sergio on this climb and in the sprint. I think he's the faster out of the two, but you never know who could sprint and who could beat who, especially when you're way over your limit, up and over 6,000 feet.
These guys have got no limit now. They're right on that red line.
Pogacar, just 20 years of age, but knows the pace he's capable of so well. Didn't panic when Higuita attacked, and now has been able to catch him, distance his other rivals. Just needs to follow the wheels to the line to get the lead.
I think this might be seeing George Bennett and maybe even Richie come back. These guys, they start looking at each other. Now we're coming back into that fencing where I was talking about, where you have that rough pavement. Really, last time we saw Andrew Talansky really fighting it out towards the top here.
Pogacar definitely needs to go for the time bonuses, whatever is available.
Got to.
Let's see what kind of sprint he can uncork. But I would definitely, like you said, Christian, give the advantage if they go to the line together to Higuita.
Now we have switchback after switchback here. Not the hardest part of the roads. Most of the hardest slopes are behind them. Looks like George Bennett, I bet you he's going to come back.
12 seconds separated these two riders at the start of the day. There's a 10-second win bonus. Pogacar would get 6 seconds if he were to finish second. He's on a ride to take yellow now, that is for sure. And he's from Slovenia, whereas we expect the riders from Colombia to ride like this. There's the time bonuses, 10, 6 and 4 on screen at the moment, as we're now seeing George Bennett desperate to dig something out of this race. Bennett comes after them as they start the zigzags. 300 meters to go.
Last couple of corners. Higuita leading Pogacar, but George Bennett closing the gap now. Higuita starts his sprint. Pogacar trying to match Higuita for the line.
He's just got to go around the zigzags to see the finish. He showed us he's one of those rare Colombian cyclists who not only climbs but sprints as well. He's gone wide. Pogacar's gone through the inside. I doubt he can recover from that. Pogacar goes and yellow awaits and he gets the victory. The 10-second. Higuita is fuming, I think. He went far too wide on that left-hander. Bennett came across in third. Paul will be in fourth. We have witnessed some race today, Bob.
Great race. Pogacar, very prudent. Here comes the rider. See, Kasper further down, trying the top 10 overall. Wow, what a stage by Sergio Higuita. Very aggressive, but too aggressive on that final corner. And Pogacar, more prudent, way more mature than his age would suggest. Just 20 years of age.
Well,
stage win, 10-second time bonus into the yellow jersey at the end of today's stage.
And he's set up now for one day around Pasadena to become the youngest ever rider of this race. TJ and his team tried everything they knew today, but that attack by Schachmann destroyed them. And then the moves by the other boys waiting in the wings, that put the nails in the coffin of TJ Van Garderen today. He's coming up still with two teammates around it. TJ Van Garderen.
Not so sad right there. He's got the girls there, his wife Jessica.
Absolutely.
Kids don't mind too much.
No,
Great
they
to see
don't care
Dad.
what you get first or last.
Dad did his best. He's been the race leader, so it's a great sport. It's very unpredictable, and the new overall standings now in the Amgen classification is Pogacar is the new leader at 20 years of age. Higuita is second. Kasper Asgreen is into third place, down from second, by the way. Bennett is up to fourth now, and Richie Porte is up to fifth.
TJ Van Garderen, disappointing day, losing his lead, coming unglued just a few kilometers from the finish, but very tough, arduous climb to the line, dominated by that man, Tadej Pogacar. Pre-race hype suggested he would be contending, but dominating? Wow, 20 years old, your new race leader. Looking down the valley, still some clouds. Mixed prediction for tomorrow. Could be some rain. Could be a dangerous situation for Tadej Pogacar. This race is not over by any stretch of the imagination. Crosswinds might spell doom. Not predicted to be too strong tomorrow, but if they do arrive, watch for the UAE squad to have a really hard day in the saddle tomorrow. Down a man, Christian Durasek, having been removed from the race by his team because of his relationship with an ongoing doping investigation. But still some strong riders left. Vegard Stockelangen had a great day today, keeping Pogacar up in the frame before the final accelerations and aggressions to the line started to unfold. Should be able to defend the lead. 16 seconds, so even with the time bonus at the line, Pogacar's lead unassailable. But there are also 3 seconds and 3 seconds. And Sergio Higuita's been sprinting so well.
But Higuita would have to win the stage and win both of the time bonuses, and Pogacar could not get anything for him to win the race. It would be quite the ask.
Not impossible, though.
And then, well, actually, that would be tied. Then we have to be count back.
Count back, exactly. Last kilometer, Higuita, the aggressor. Pogacar very steady, knows his tempo. Very mature for a 20-year-old. Didn't panic, didn't go too deep into the red. And just slowly, each time Higuita accelerated, clawed his way back onto the wheel. At this point, he's in the better position because he's ahead in the GC. He just needs to sit on Higuita's wheel. And that is very clever and very strong riding by Tadej Pogacar. The dueling youngsters. Higuita 21, Pogacar just 20. George Bennett very nearly caught them before the finish line, but very nearly is the difference between third and winning. Pogacar biding his time. Higuita trying to drop Pogacar because he did need the time gap to get the lead. But Tadej, wow, looking over his shoulder one last time to see where the competition is. Last couple of U-turns. Very steep here. It does flatten out towards the line, and you can get a bit of a head of a steam going. And that's exactly what Sergio Higuita is doing in the big chain ring. So going quite quickly for the last couple of switchbacks. Pogacar sitting on the wheel, biding his time. Higuita looking over his shoulder. George Bennett getting close, closing in on them. These are the flatter roads before the switchbacks that do kick up in the big chain ring. 2 more to go. 1 left, 1 right, and then the sprint to the line.
Now waiting for the award of the Amgen yellow jersey. I must say that this young man has done all he's promised. He's parried the blows of the inquisitive press, and he's delivered here on top of Mount Baldy as he salutes the crowd.
I wish I felt that good as he looks, and haven't done 1 pedal stroke whatsoever today. It's amazing.
When's the last time you've seen 2 kids like this come in on their freshman year in the Pro Tour and have results like this?
It's frightening. It's the turn of
Higuita's
the
first race.
Yeah.
New race leader. Higuita will be in the best young riders jersey, even though he trails the man he lost to today by a few seconds in the overall. Tadej Pogacar, 2 jerseys to bring home to Slovenia. That would be phenomenal. Pogacar already a winner in the World Tour earlier this year. Tour of Algarve, took that out. And now he'll carry a 16-second lead over Sergio Higuita. 20 seconds to Kasper Asgreen. 29 to George Bennett. Simon Spilak had a good climb. Another Slovenian. He is 6th in the overall standings. Großschartner showing promise with a few kilometers to go, but then not able to match Pogacar and Higuita. So Sergio Higuita.
You beat a lot of experienced riders on a big mountain stage today. How did you do this?
Oh yeah, it was for sure team effort. Yeah, once again my team did a really good job protecting me all day and leading me out to the final climb and support me all the way that they could. And I just did my best the last 5 kilometers or 6, and yeah, I was climbing really well today. So yeah, when I caught Higuita, I was calming down because I knew George Bennett is coming, but he was not so much threat to me. So I was waiting and starting my sprint after behind Higuita, and he made mistake last corner, and I went so much faster than him. So it was really good.
Huge moment for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
A lot of work still to